Hey guys, Rich here with Thrill the Treasure. Thought I'd do a quick video this morning. Good morning, and do one that focuses on something that Forrest said. The Yellowstone video has been pretty popular so far, at least popular in my eyes. I'm not looking for thousands of views, so looking for more feedback. As I said in my first video about me, kind of want to create a small community that bounces ideas off each other. And so if you do watch the video, please comment and give me your opinion. I would love your opinion. That's what I'm trying to learn off everyone else as well. So just to kind of recap, the last video about Forrest's comments was based on his comment on Yellowstone and staying on the established trails and not going off the trails, and what that meant as far as if the treasure was in Yellowstone. Early on, I like everyone else, I watched a Moby Dickens bookshop interview. It's a pretty amazing interview, and if anyone that's new to the chase that hasn't watched what I have on my screen right now, I highly recommend watching it. It's just packed full of information. So I remember the first time I watched it, this part really stuck out to me, and it took me a long time to track back to it because there's so many comments that he makes that I want to highlight for you guys and highlight for myself. But as far as search area goes and narrowing it down based on comments he says and based on being rational and making educated decisions, this is a huge one, probably the biggest so far that I've found. So I want to share it with you guys. So I'm going to play the video. This part of the video just takes a minute or so. I want everyone to listen, and make sure you listen. Also watch his body language when this question is asked, and then I'll be right back.
You can't thank some people. You can never thank enough.
Forrest, we've got a question from your online fan base that we've got to address too.
Who is it?
This one's anonymous.
Okay. Well, I'm in trouble now.
Was the car you walked back to after hiding the treasure rented?
Was it rented?
Was it rented?
You know, that's the first time I've been asked that question, but I can't tell you how many times I've thought about that. That's why I've told people that I hid the treasure chest when I was either 79 or 80 years old, because I don't want the exact date to be known, because I'm afraid somebody will go check the rental car records and how many miles did Mr. Fenn put on the truck or the car. And so I don't answer those kind of questions, but shoot that person that sent that
email. Okay, guys. Again, love Forrest. Shoot the person that sent that. Great response. And just, as always, a good answer, animated answer, funny answer. He is quite the showman. Now, what sticks out to you about that answer? Anyone? And I know what sticks out for me. It's that he's telling the truth. You notice how his body language changes instantly when he repeats the question. Let's look at this real quick. We go back to the exact time it starts. It starts at let's see, 33:45. Okay, so 33:45. Here, I'll pause it.
You can't thank some people. You can never thank enough.
Forrest, we've got a question from your online fan base that we've got to address too.
Who is it?
This one's anonymous.
Okay. Well, I'm in trouble now.
Was the car you walked back to after hiding the treasure rented?
Was it rented?
Was it rented?
Okay. You see how quickly he looked up and repeated the question? He's getting serious here, right?
You know.
Yes, yes. Shaking his head. Yes, yes, yes. and kind of had a nervous look on his face, and he's thinking. He's legitimately thinking. And this isn't a stretch, guys. I mean, we're all can read body language. We're all adults. We saw people lying. We've seen people telling the truth for years. Sometimes it's hard, yeah, but sometimes it's easy. And this is easily he's telling the truth here.
Well, that's the first time I've been asked that question, but I can't tell you how many times I've thought about that.
Massive statement to start off this. Look at him. Look back up at the presenter, that question, with his finger pointed up for emphasis. This is a big deal to him. This is important to him, right? You don't know how many times I've thought about this. That's not something someone says if they've thought about if they're asked, they're going to trick you or say something that's deceptive. This is a legitimate concern that Forrest had. I think it popped in his mind after he hid the treasure. Okay, and here's why.
That's why I've told people that I buried that I hid the treasure chest when I was either 79 or 80 years old, because I don't want the exact date to be known, because I'm afraid somebody will go check the rental car records and how many miles did Mr. Fenn put on the truck or the car. And so I don't answer those kind of questions, but shoot that person that sent that email.
Okay. So he think about this. It worried him so much that the whole reason why he never gave the exact age sounds like it was because of this specific reason. So think about how important that was. So he hid the treasure, and then this starts, and then he realized, or it doesn't start. He's thinking about he's probably going through all the things that potentially could get him, you know what I'm saying, get the spot discovered sooner or tip his hand. And he thinks, shoot, the rental car, right? And so he's like, okay, how can I do that? People are crafty. It's the internet age. And he decides to basically not give an exact date and put it over the course of 2 years. That's basically all he can do. But you can tell from this video, guys, that this really, really has concerned him. And getting asked a question for the first time really, really heightened his senses. He's like, it really brought a lot of emotion to him. A couple things he says in there that are interesting. Okay, he's in truth-telling mode. He's being completely straightforward, and he has two slip-ups. Okay, and you can catch them if you go back. I'm not going to repeat it again for sake of time. I don't like to do too long of videos. But one thing he says truck. He says, when I rented the truck, he says something that here's Terry Scan. I have it pulled up in Terry Scan too. They probably don't have it. Where they have the right quote, but sometimes they leave out the little nuances. Yeah, he says, put on the truck or the car. But in real time, it's almost like he catches himself, like he visualized in the scene that he rented a truck that day. Okay? And then secondly, the big slip up that he says a lot, guys, and I'm going to have a video on this one, because I think it's very important, is he says when he buried the treasure. When he buried the treasure. Then he says, when I hid the treasure. I can't tell you how many times he has said that over the course of the last few years. And again, I don't want to get into that right now because it's massive. It's a massive piece to this. Okay? But right now, let's focus on this. So if he did rent a truck or a car, what does that mean? All right, let's just assume, again, he's not doing this incredible acting job off on the cuff and being completely a master manipulator, and he's telling the truth, which, again, he says that he's not going to go out of his way to lie or misdirect. Then that's the assumptions I make on these videos. He could always be lying to us, but we got to make some assumptions, got to make some decisions. At least that's how I see this. And I'm using him like this is, in my opinion, one of the best ways, outside the poem and the book, of course. So if he rented a vehicle, what does it mean to us? Well, here's one thing that it means. I pulled up Google Earth, which we all use all the time for this. There's Santa Fe, and there's a border of Colorado. It's 81 miles. 81 miles. So Have you ever rented a vehicle to drive 81 miles? I haven't. I mean, that trip is easily jump in the car trip. Now, I don't know. I have not looked into this enough, and I'm sure some of you have. And please comment below if you guys know what vehicle Forrest had. I have heard that I think on his 80th birthday, he bought himself his dream truck, like a Jeep Cherokee, white one, I think, brand new. So if he hit it after his birthday on 80th birthday, then he could have drove that up there or to hide the treasure. If it, you know what I'm saying, within that distance that we're talking about right there in New Mexico. If it was a year before that, before he had the car, I'm sure that Forrest Fenn had a road-worthy vehicle, don't you? And also, he's, you know, it's Forrest, so he's did so many drives up to Cody for the board meetings and stuff. He's driven all over the Southwest. So I just don't see him renting a vehicle to drive 81 miles or less. All right, so I'm not going to speculate into Colorado on this video, and we can take a lot from this video. We can, you know what I'm saying, do a Google search of what's the average distance someone drives when they rent a vehicle, and kind of use that. Maybe we should, but I just want to be rational with it and do what we can is most logical and statistically going to wipe out something that's a big search area for us. And in my opinion, the man rented a vehicle. And for anyone that says he didn't, this is the one I'll probably defend the most. That answer right there, I don't see how you could deny it. He rented a vehicle the day that he hid the treasure. And it just really, really makes this interesting, because it also brings up a very big possibility, in my opinion, that he did fly it in. And another thing I don't know if he had his plane when he sold his plane. If he had it in 2010, then it's very possible that he got in that little two-seater that he had, or one-seater that he's talked about, that had the 600-mile range, threw that treasure in the back and flew to the location and rented a vehicle and drove it in for the afternoon, then flew back. This is a big speculation people's had, and it's really the only way, well, not the only way, but it makes more sense for the farther locations. But the story that he tells, also, I'll point out real quickly, the way he tells the day he hid the chest, that's the way Forrest deceives. He deceives by leaving out things, not by lying. Okay, so he makes it sound like it's such an easy afternoon, right? Where if you have 4 or 5 hours, you can drive out to the location, you can get to the chest location twice, first to deliver the stuff, then go back at the chest, and then put it all together, and then you're done. And it makes you think that naturally, we all think, okay, well, he did that from Santa Fe. You're right. We visualize him leaving the house, driving an hour to the location, or 2 hour and a half, 2 hour, whatever it is, if it's northeast or northwest of Santa Fe, and hiding and then getting home for supper. All right. But maybe I think this is the misdirections, the kind of thing he does. He's telling the story from after he possibly, either after he flew to the location or after he drove 5 or 6 hours to location, and then maybe he spent the night and drove back the next day. So he's that drive he's talking about is from the hotel, like from the kind of the hotel, or back to the hotel, and he's just kind of starting it from when he gets to the parking lot. So it's a long drive, or it's a flight with a shorter drive. And there's some information that kind of backs up that flight thing, and it's up here actually. And I think we've all heard this story if you've been through the chase any amount of time. Here's one. So going to the airport, pushing the hangar doors open, cranking up that beautiful sounding 350 HP Lycom engine, and heading north for Montana or Wyoming, not knowing or caring where I would land. I didn't have to talk to anyone after I left Santa Fe. and at 100 feet above the telephone poles, I can see a lot of things under my wings: moose, grizzly bear, teepee circles, and cowboys or on horseback. If I saw a little airport, I'd look in the book to see if they had a rental car place, a rental car. If they did, I'd land and ask anybody who collected about anyone who collected airheads. I sure met a lot of great ranch folks that way and ate some pretty volcanic elk chili. I can't think of anything I've ever done that has been more exhilarating. So if you go with he flew his little 350 HP, then he's kind of telling us how it happened. There's probably some little airport close by to a special place that has a rental car place that he found in the book. I love how he calls it the book. And that's how this happened, guys. Or he rented it from Santa Fe and used that rental to drive a distance that he didn't want to put on his vehicle for whatever reason. Maybe it was the new vehicle or the old vehicle. Okay, and I'll go one step further with this and pick what I think the likely scenario is. And just looking at Forrest and being Forrest, right? I don't see Forrest. He's too, how would I put it? He's too self-reliant, too independent. I mean, did you read that quote? He enjoys opening the hangar's doors himself. He doesn't want anyone else to help him. You see Forrest driving into Santa Fe, into a town that everyone knows him, and renting a car when he already has a vehicle? No, I don't either, right? No, he didn't. He would drive that vehicle that he had that 4 or 5 hours. I really think he would, just because because he can. You know what I'm saying? He's from the era where people used their vehicles. I mean, think about the stories about his dad's Chevy and how important that car was to him. I just don't see him leaving home his car to rent a car just to drive five hours. And when he has a car at home, that he's probably driven many times up to Cody. Now, I might be wrong. We might find out that it might be his habit for him and his wife to rent a car every time they drove up to Cody. But again, let's just use what we know. This is what this is all about. Reading his personality and then reading his comments, trying to put that all together to make some assumptions that are logical and are really logical. So in my opinion, the more likely scenario is if we find out, if we could find out he had that airplane, his airplane still, he flew it in that manner that's described in that one quote. He landed it in an airport just like that he'd probably been to before. And he rented the car and did that trip. Now, whether he stayed in that area for the night or where he flew back, I don't know. And it doesn't really matter, right? What matters is this story isn't starting from Santa Fe. This story is starting from somewhere probably way up north enough to take a plane. Now, I'll just go ahead and cut to the chase. Based on all my assumptions that I'm going to go through all of them with you, all these quotes that made me make my decision, I think the treasure's in Montana. I do. And so I made that assumption really early before I saw a lot of this stuff. And then what I've done is I've looked at stuff to verify the longer distance, and it's really coming together. So again, we've talked about Yellowstone being out. This knocks out Santa Fe, and it knocks out probably, in my opinion, a lot of Colorado. Because again, is he going to rent? If he did drive it, if he rented it just to drive, I mean, did he rent it to drive an hour or 2 hours or even 3 hours? Why wouldn't he just take his own car? So I think it takes out the bottom of Colorado for sure. So it's a huge assumption to make. I understand that. And again, guys, this is just my opinion. I want feedback. I'm trying to get a smaller community that we really get feedback. So leave your comments. And I'm even going to try to get a more interactive way that we can powwow on this stuff and as a group. But this is just really exciting to me to share with you guys because I think it's something that's been overlooked. And I know some really smart people have even did shows on if he rented a car or not, and came to the conclusion that he didn't. And I just don't see how that's possible. That's like, again, out of all my videos, I'll stick by this the most. That man rented a vehicle when he hid that treasure, and it probably was a truck. And that's just because he was in truth-telling mode 100%. 100%. This is key. 81 miles from Santa Fe to Colorado. So, I mean, if you go another 83 miles, it puts you up to Colorado Springs. Go another 83 or so, it's up close to Denver, right? So we're talking about just 3 hours going through more than half of Colorado from Santa Fe. So that really, this area right here makes you wonder why he would use a rented vehicle to hide a treasure in this area, up in this areas. So that's my assumption. So I'm going to go do some research on if he had his plane. I'm also going to do some research on what the average distance is someone travels when they do rent a vehicle, if they don't fly first. Then I'll get that information back to you. I'll probably leave it in the comment below the video. I won't make a new video about it. But that's it, guys, for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you think my content's different and new. I'm trying to do something new based on everything that's out there. It's a different approach. My next video is going to be about the home of Brown. It's going to piggyback on the 2D, 3D poem. It's going to go back to the poem and analyzing where I think the home of Brown is based on some different looks. All right, guys, let's see here. Let me end this puppy. I appreciate it. I'll get back to you guys real soon. Thanks.